All right, everybody, we're back. Welcome to the fourth ever episode of the Gentleman's Journal Iron Sharpens Iron podcast. I'm your host for this episode, at least, Brett Trembly, proud longtime GJ member. And quick shout out to El Vecino, the classiest cigar lounge in downtown Miami, for hosting us as always. Come check it out if you can. And thanks for everybody in the audience here. Gentleman's Journal, you can find us on Instagram at Gentleman's Journal and see what we're all about, which is a mastermind for gentlemen who are networking and trying to be better fathers, better business people, better men. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And today's a little bit different though than our first three episodes, because we talk a lot of good things, a lot of success stories. And we have two very special guests with us today who are immense success stories, but along their way, they've had some adversity. And so we're talking about ups and downs today, and maybe not always the fun things you see on podcasts, like everything's great, business great, I'm the best business owner ever, puffing our chest. Life happens and things happen in business. There's partnership disputes, there's ups and downs, there's market changes. And today I'm just very honored we are to have two special friends of mine, longtime GJ members themselves, who have really great success stories, but have had some turbulent times as well. So that was the ask today. It was like, hey guys, let's talk about the real kind of stuff that can happen in business. It's not so fun. As always, today's organic. There's been zero prep questions, zero, hey Brent, hey Phil, I'm going to ask you guys these, be prepared. These are just conversations, and hopefully we're pulling out a lot of good things, a lot of sound bites for our own members mostly, but if anyone else is listening, and just having really good conversations. So without further ado, going to introduce our guests today, and I'll start on my left, Mr. Brent Bardales. Brent, just give us like what you do currently before your backstory. Like tell us what you're up to.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on here. It's a privilege to be here. I now own Rev Your Business. We're a business consulting firm. We help companies with growth, efficiency, profitability, and exit planning. And how I got here, we'll talk a little bit more about that today.
That's Rev Your Business.
Rev Your Business.
Absolutely. So a lot of business consulting from somebody who's been through it at a young age, has built some crazy successful ventures. So thank you for being here. And on my right, we have Mr. Phil Stevenson. Phil, same thing, just quick, 30 seconds. What are you doing today? Give us the elevator pitch real quick.
Awesome. Thanks as well for having us here. So I've been in the mortgage business since 2005, owned my mortgage company since 2012. That's been the main business. There's other smaller businesses that I've had. And now there's a smaller one that I'm hopefully growing that relates to mortgages and real estate. Maybe we'll get into as well later.
Yeah, we got plenty of time, long form podcast, right? Spent about 2 hours chatting with each other. So let's see where this takes us. Phil, we're going to start with you. First of all, there's a difference, as I'm reminded often, between, and I know you didn't ask for this or anything like this, probably going to embarrass you, but between veterans and combat veterans. And there's somebody in GJ who always makes that special point, but Phil is a combat veteran. So anytime I get a chance to say thank you publicly, thank you, sir. That's something I've never been through, and I don't wish that on most people. I'm sure a lot of good stories, but a lot of bad things that happen there too. So, pretty cool to consider you a friend.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk mortgages. So you were cranking, acquiring properties at a young age, and then, the financial crisis of 2008 hit. So tell us what happened, like leading up to sort of, 2008.
Sure. So when I was 18, I remember telling a group of friends that all their parents had money. My parents were poor. I said, I'm going to buy a house. And I remember them laughing. And that motivated the shit out of me, because I was like, y'all think I can't do it just because I didn't come from what you came from, was what motivated me. And while it didn't turn out how I envisioned, I bought a small condo after my first deployment to Afghanistan before going to Iraq. I was only 22. And by the time I was 27, I owned 7 properties, I think it was, which that was 2027. Then came 2007. Then 2008 came, which we all know what happened. The market crashed. I was in the mortgage business. I started in the mortgage business 2005. So I had to file for bankruptcy, cut my losses, and got rid of all the properties except that condo. That was my first one. And at the same time, there was no business coming in the mortgage business. But I did a reverse mortgage for my grandparents. It's a highly misunderstood mortgage. I was their heir. My mom had already passed away.
Reverse mortgages get a very bad name, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So when you say highly understood, well, I'm going to
Highly
ask you some of that.
misunderstood, yeah.
Misunderstood, yeah.
So when I looked into it, it was from the point of view of an heir, since my mom had already passed away, and my aunt and uncle dug in with me. And in the end, we were like, this isn't all the negative stuff you hear out there. We did it for my grandparents. Values crashed. Values rebounded a bit. They finally passed away 2013. We sold the house in 3 months. There was profits. But what that did is now it had me thinking, can I do this while the whole market is going to shit and nobody's doing conventional loans unless you had the best credit and huge down payments, and only banks were offering it. The brokers were pretty much out. A lot of people were getting out of the business, and I joined a company. I was learning reverse mortgages, doing a lot of Spanish media marketing, Radio Mambi, Maria Elvira, things like that. And so we started to thrive. And I think 2009, I made 6 figures and, continued from there. We started to thrive while others were getting out of the business. And since then, I've closed over 1,000 reverse mortgages. 2011, 2017, it's all I did. I made a name for myself as a reverse mortgage lender. So that's the story of leading up to 2008, where started doing well, crashed, and then started doing well again. And
let's back up to pre-08. How did you said you had 7 properties, but you weren't making millions. So is this because back in the day, with the Dream Act, just we were handing out mortgages to anybody with a pulse, or did you have a different method on how you were acquiring properties?
I should not have been any of the condo. I qualified 100%. And there wasn't a lot of income at the time, but the payment was like $700 a month.
You were 18 when you
I
got
was
that?
22
You were
when I
22
closed
when
on
you
it.
got that first.
The
So that's when you told your friends, like, F you, and then you accomplished what you said.
Yeah. And
Okay.
they weren't. They didn't till years. Some of them are clients and stuff, and and they probably don't even know that they were part of that story. They probably don't remember that conversation, but I never forgot it.
Of course.
So yeah.
And then, but how did you get up to 7 property? Were you just rolling the equity from each one? And
Yeah. So I got back from Iraq. While I was in Iraq, I bought the condo. It was like a $700-800 a month payment. There was a tenant there paying the rent while I was gone. So while I was gone, they were paying me money for owning a property. I was always finding ways to maximize what the Army would give, what I'd get for school and things like that. I was putting myself through college. And that was one of those maximization plans, I guess you could say. And so when I came back, I renovated it. And then there was tons of equity, because now we're talking 2024. And it was like,
no, 2004.
Sorry, yeah, I keep doing that. 2004, tons of equity. Let me take out a line of credit. Let me start buying more properties. Stated income,
So
you do whatever.
you could use the line of credit money for a down payment for another property. Yeah, so that's why people just over leverage like crazy.
And the qualification, and I did a couple, and I held tight. Then I got into the mortgage business, and I joined a company of unscrupulous people, the owners, and they were like, no, do this. No, you could afford it. No. So I went from 3 to 7.
Because you were in the mortgage industry, you were giving yourself, essentially qualifying yourself for mortgages?
Stated income.
Okay.
You could state whatever your income was.
Wow.
Back then.
So tell us about the 7 property. Do you remember like what you had and what they were worth, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. It was probably 1.5 to 2 million at the time in total. There were condos, because I bought a couple single families in the St. Lucie area. Then I bought some condos in Melbourne, in Naples. I can't remember the other ones at this point. I think Orlando area, and Lake Mary, northern Orlando. And so that was
in your mid 20s and you're just acquiring properties like crazy. If they were worth about 1.5, how much did you owe on them? Do you remember?
Most of it. Because you could put 5% down and stuff like that on investment properties, and that's essentially what it was. So yeah. And then I was trying to hold out for at least, because the lenders started going out of business in 2006. That's where the first domino fell. 2007 was when a lot of them started going under. And so value started to drop. Some of those properties we couldn't sell yet. Started trying to sell them, and you're upside down. You're paying more mortgage than the rent.
Well, what happened to the renters? Did they just F you, I'm not paying you? Did they bail? Did they move out? Like
they're just the renters were there, But just throwing numbers out there, if I was paying $1,500 mortgage in association, I was getting $1,000. So I'm negative 500 times 5.
Even from the get-go or only after things
From
started?
the get-go. Because at that time, that's what was going on in the market. And all of these were lessons I learned where I teach people now what not to do.
Okay.
And so, but the mentality back then was, don't worry, you'll flip it and make a profit. Because people were having success doing that from like 02 to 05.
Sure.
But by 06 and 07, that was drying up. So there was a glut of those properties being sold. So we were upside down on the monthly payments. I was racking up credit card debt. And then that's when it was like, just cut the losses. At 27 to do bankruptcy is not like doing it now where I'm 46, or in your 50s or 60s. So I've been able to rebound, of course.
Yeah. By the way, Brent, if you have questions through this, feel free to jump in, dude, anytime. You don't have to, of course. But so what is filing bankruptcy? I mean, even if you are 27, it's still a pain in the butt. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. And your credit's shot for a while. And I always, like, it still comes up. I have a commercial building, and when I refinanced that mortgage the last time, they were grilling me on it. I'm like, it's 2021 or the end of 2020. 12 years after, it's off my credit. They find it through different sources. It's not on your credit only. And they were grilled back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, guys, it was the crash. Like, I haven't missed a payment on anything since. And, so it still comes up. But I've had perfect credit since, tons of credit cards and properties and all that. Yeah.
So, but what have you filed for bankruptcy? They basically just, like, you have to sell all the properties, mortgage companies take them back, right? Like, walk us through what happens when you file for bankruptcy and then you go through the process. So it's not like a month, it takes years.
Well, there's different chapters. Chapter 11, sure, I think, is business. 13 is where they restructure and they have a payment plan that you're talking about that you're paying for years. Since I wasn't making money until the beginning of 2008, and my wife was in nursing school and pregnant, and my daughter was born in October of 2008. Another side story of the company I was working for, I was sending them insurance money. They weren't paying the health insurance, and we were hit with the whole hospital bill. Oh, it was terrible. But the fact that we weren't making money, we passed the means test, which the Chapter 7 allows you to wipe everything out. The timing was unplanned to have the timing this way, but I started making money the second half of that year doing reverse mortgages. So it was like perfect timing to be able to wipe the slate clean and just move straight forward. So after
this is like 09 at this time?
08 still. This is
still 08.
It was like a 2 or 3 month process.
Wow.
Because we weren't making money and we qualified, we were living off of credit, essentially. Then I was able to get the Chapter 7 done and move forward.
Jesus. So you started a reverse mortgage company before you filed bankruptcy or after?
No, I joined a company that was learning it. So I learned under someone else.
Okay.
Who was not unscrupulous like the other guys. He never did any of the shady stuff that those other people did. So I learned the right way to do business. And it was there till 2011. I went through a divorce, and then I went to work at MetLife in Genworth, where I had some type of salary going off on my own from the divorce. And I saw what it's like to work in the large lenders. And I didn't like either model. I didn't like working under someone else as a broker, and I didn't like the large lender. So I said, I'm going to create my own business. And in 2012, I did that. 2013, I started recruiting people. By 2015, we were the number one reverse mortgage company in Florida. Through 2015 and 2017. And during those times, I also came out in Forbes, grossed $2 million a year, 2015, 2016. That's when I bought my commercial building. So really turned that around. And
did you have a photo on Forbes? Because we'll find it and post it.
They didn't. You can Google Phil Stevenson reverse mortgage Forbes 3 times. You'll see it.
He paid for that PR article.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'll tell.
No one knows
story.
Unless someone else on the podcast mentions that part. But hey, we're all good.
Hey, listen. It's not how you got there. It's that you got there. So what I did was a shot in the dark. Actually, I said there's these big changes going on in reverse mortgages. I paid $5,000 to a PR company to put this out everywhere. This article. And this one company picked it up. That's a subsidiary of Forbes. And he continued to interview me over the years. So yeah, that's how you could do it.
You didn't have to throw yourself under the bus. That was a joke, but I guess not.
No,
hey, it's a good lesson for people to learn.
It's awesome. It's a great, the amount of times I've had PR companies ask me for a bunch of money to promote things that I've said no, because you're like, well, I have no idea what I'm gonna get this, but you bet on yourself and it worked.
It was
That's
a shot in
awesome.
the dark,
Yeah.
and it worked out.
Let's get into the reverse mortgage part of it though, because Forbes is picking you up, #1 reverse mortgage company in Florida, 2017. But that didn't last forever either. That gravy train had a little bit of a bump in the road too, right?
Yeah. So between 2015 and 2017, there were so many changes to the reverse mortgage, so many regulation changes and rule changes. They started looking at credit and income for the borrowers, so our business started to decline. There were other changes, like they were reducing the percentage people would get. Business was declining. So several of those changes made me say, okay, I've got to pivot again. And this pivot will be getting back into all mortgages. And I said, I've done one of the hardest mortgages that exist. Now I want to focus on other hard mortgage types.
Reverse is one of the hardest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you ask most people in the mortgage business, they can't even explain how it works. A lot of people still refer me business that are in the mortgage business.
It's like you said, there's a negative connotation behind reverse mortgages. I've heard my dad like mention and some other people with like don't fall for that type of thing. So let's come back to how a reverse mortgage really works. Because once you explained it to me, for an older person especially, I thought, well, that could make a lot of sense actually. So we're gonna circle back around to that. All right. All right, Brent. How old are you, my friend?
I just turned 34. Could you believe it?
God, I thought you were like 38, dude. This
No,
drives me
man.
nuts, man.
34.
He's always younger than I think. So 34, and you've lived, to me, what seems like a lifetime in business. I'm going to ask you to kind of start at the beginning, but I remember we were in South Miami. We were at a gathering of Gentleman's Journal early days. You walked outside, you walked back in, and you were like, I just had, if I can share this without giving away too much, a liquidity moment that I'll never have again for the rest of my life. Like, you were young and you had a big sale, right? And you've then gone through it again, ups and downs. So, at 34, it's wild to me, but let's talk about it, man. How did you get into business? What were your early beginnings?
So let's go back to when I was 14. I was really into sneakers, like Nikes and Jordans. And I started with a couple $100s and I bought a pair of Jordans and I ended up reselling them and made a couple $100. And I was like, whoa, there's something here. And I got obsessed. And then all of a sudden my room turned into from floor to ceiling, just shoe boxes everywhere and then closets. And then I had like a little shipping station in our laundry room and it got out of control. There were shoes coming and going all day, every day out of my house.
Were your parents supportive? Or,
yeah, they loved it.
That's,
yeah.
I don't want to gloss over the fact that a lot of kids have parents who don't support. Like, we have guys in GJ who, my parents want me to like stop my business and go back to school. Some of our young guys I've heard. And that can be very discouraging when you don't have the support.
I was lucky enough to have my father, who was, very entrepreneurial and did really well in business. So that helped. But, so fast forward, I get a car. I turned 16 and I decided it'd be a good idea to just sell all my shoes and start putting money into my car, which is probably the worst idea ever. But wow. It actually ended up working out really well because I went to this place that would do work on my car. And I ended up going there every day after school and hanging out with the guy that worked at the front. He ended up becoming a very good friend of mine. And I ended up working with them because they had asked me to come take photos. Cause at the time I got really good at photography when I was doing all the photography of the shoes. Cause I realized if you take better photos of shoes, you could sell them quicker. And anyways,
how are you selling, by the way? eBay mostly?
No, through forums. There was a forum called ISS Forums. It's like International Soul Society. And it was just a bunch of sneaker people.
There's just
on a forum.
A sneakerhead society out there that nobody knows about unless you're in it.
At the time, it was a huge forum. And anyway, I developed like kind of a big name on that forum. And that's how I was like buying and selling through there.
Just real quick, because I'm curious, like, is it hard to get these sneakers, and that's why someone like you who can get the sneakers and resell them is a big deal? Like, why is there such a niche market for?
Yeah, so for instance, like Nike at the time, I was really into the Nike SBs, the skateboarding shoes from Nike, and those only specific retailers get certain allocations of the shoes, and I had developed a good relationship with some of the retailers, so I would get allocations to these shoes and sometimes be able to buy 2 pairs so I can keep one and sell one and do that whole thing.
So you're not buying them retail. You got in.
So I was buying retail.
Wholesale.
Yeah, I'm buying retail through the retailer, and then the secondhand market on some of these shoes, you'd buy a pair of shoes for $110, and then you would sell them for a couple thousand. So yeah, you would do really well on them, and obviously if you get a lot of them,
limited editions.
Yeah. So that was the sneaker thing. Fast forward to the cars. Sell all the shoes, put a bunch of money into the car, develop a good relationship with the guy there. It was a place called USP Motorsports up in Coral Springs, and they called me like, hey, do you want to come take photos of this event where we're bringing they had like this drag racing car. We're bringing our car out there. We have a big thing and customers are going to come to, like, we'll have a whole retail store set up outside of our trailer and the whole thing. So I went, took photos and videos and did that whole thing. 2 weeks later, they said, do you want to come work for us and do marketing? And I had no idea what that meant. They didn't either, but I was working at an animal hospital at the time. I ended up going over there 2 weeks later, started working with them. And it was a really cool opportunity because the owner of the company, I worked with them through the end of high school and my short college career. And I ended up getting taken under the wing of the owner, who is still a very, very good friend to this day. And he would bring me into his office whenever he was dealing with tough decisions to make and cash flow issues and whatever. And he'd bring me into his office and say, Brent, I know you're going to be doing this one day, so I just want to show you what I'm going through right now. And then he would just walk me through what's happening and the decision he's going to make. So he became a mentor, and it was very cool. And
that's incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
To be lucky enough to have access to a mentor.
Yeah.
That walks you through important decisions.
Yeah. It was really, really cool. And I also had that with my father, which was I'm super grateful for. So I'm working with them, and I finish my AA college, associate's degree. And then
shout out Miami-Dade.
No, it was Palm Beach
FIU.
State College.
Palm Beach State. Got it.
It used to be Palm Beach Community College, but the first year I went, it was a state college. So it was.
Did they have a mascot? The Fighting what? Do they?
I have no idea.
Yeah, right, cool.
they probably do, but I was not really into the school. But so I go to dinner with my dad, and now I'm 21 years old, and we're at dinner, we're eating at Morton's, and he goes, buddy, I need help at the business. So, do you want to finish college? And I'm like, no, that's actually what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. And, he goes, great. Cause I didn't want you to, I need help at the business. So he's like, you got to move down to Miami. You're going to move into this city called Brickell. You have to find a place to live there, cause you're going to be rubbing elbows with the right people and So so fast forward, it's now February 2014. I moved to Brickell, financed my furniture. I didn't have any money, and I didn't know how I was going to afford to pay rent, but he said, don't worry, we'll figure it out. It's all right. So I'm now working the front desk at the medical office. This is an outpatient medical imaging facility. I'm working the front desk, learning how that works. And then I go into the back with the technologists, the MRI and CT techs, and learn what they're doing. And then I shadow the marketing people. And now we're like 8 months into it, 7 or 8 months into it. And my dad would come down on Mondays, every morning on Monday, and we'd have a marketing meeting. He and I would go to lunch, and then he would leave, and that was his week, right?
Nice. He would go golfing or something, right?
7 days a week.
Yeah,
golf.
okay.
Yeah. So we go to lunch this one day, and we would always go to the same place, except this day we went to a different restaurant, and I knew something was weird. And he goes, the guy who was managing the company at the time is leaving, so you're going to have to take over the operations of the company. And I'm like, I'm 20 at the time. I was 21. I'm like, I have no idea how to operate a company. I know nothing about MRIs, and I know nothing about running a business. He goes, well, you're going to figure it out. So that was that. I came back to the office, and I had an office in the back now, and the staff had balloons and whatever. It was very cool. So on the wall in the office, when I opened the door, there was a little paper that I had written in first grade, and he had it framed and on the wall when I walked in. So the first thing I saw when I walked into my new office was this paper that I wrote, and it was when I was learning how to put sentences together. And the topic was why it's important to learn the alphabet. And I said it was important to learn the alphabet because I want to be an MRI businessman when I grow up.
What?
BISNIS, MRI businessman. Yeah.
Business.
So that being
Wait,
said,
did your dad already own an MRI?
oh, I grew up in,
Yeah,
he was, I would always ask him what he did,
Yeah.
and he would say, I'm an MRI businessman. I didn't know what that meant. I just
Right.
knew I wanted to be like Dad. So I wrote this letter, and it was there on the wall, and that was like the coolest thing. Now it's behind my desk, and I have it. I look at it every single day. It's awesome. So
First of all, amazing story on the first grade and the poster. Before we move on, you have no medical experience or background, and you're running an MRI facility. So I just kind of want to point out.
Yeah.
You're a patient, you go see a doctor. Doctors don't just all have MRI machines in their offices, so they refer a patient to a facility like yours, and you're just doing you're networking, I think, with doctors, right? And you're trying to get as many referrals as you can.
Yep.
And you're just volume MRIs, give people the CD, send it to the doctor, and that's the story, right?
essentially, yeah. So that business is 100% relationship driven. Doctors and attorneys, personal injury attorneys and doctors, primarily doctors. We were one of the few facilities in Miami that we had contracts with every insurance carrier in the county, so we could see any patient with any insurance, and that was a very good value add, which we'll talk about towards the end of that journey. But
and doctors can send patients anywhere, so it's just literally out hustling, getting the business and creating the relationships.
Yeah, and the quality of the reads, which is our radiologist who is, I mean, the best, and that's objectively stating he is the absolute best radiologist that there is in Florida, and he reads all over the country. But he was also our medical director. His office was in our facility, and those guys. So that business was interesting because when I came in, I was just running the company, and then my father had really been detached from that business for years. He kind of retired at 40 years old and kind of let the business just run itself, and it ran to the ground. And so
and it ran into the ground.
It ran into the ground, right. Yeah. And so with that,
and by the way, Brent's playing with his medical device. He has
I'm a type 1 diabetic.
Type 1 diabetic,
insulin
so just
pump.
another challenge that he's not let slow him down at all.
Yeah, that's just part of life. It's not a big deal. But so at the time, I walk into the company. When I walked into that office for the first time, I sit down, I close the door, I sit down. This is the first time I'm by myself in this office, and there's these two pieces of paper stapled together, and it was basically an Excel spreadsheet printed out of every single vendor that we're past due on, and it was the amount of money that we were past due was like 35% of our total revenue for the year. Yeah. So not profit, but revenue for the year. So if you can imagine, it would take a long time to pay that down. So now I start answering the phones and realizing, man, we've got like collections agencies calling, our landlord threatening to put padlocks on the door. It was out of control.
So just so I'm clear, this is not like, hey, our accounts receivable is high, you just got to pick up the phone and collect money. You're talking about you guys owing this money to vendors. All right. So it's not like you have a way to just go find the money either.
No.
Yeah.
So it was a real big mess. So now I'm trying to figure out how to keep everyone at bay. So I start putting together payment plans with everyone to at least show good faith. Like, hey, we're paying this down. So if you know those little sticker label makers where you could print out a little label on the okay. So
IOUs.
Oh yeah. So I had I would print these things out. So I'd get off the phone with someone and I would set up this payment plan, and I would print out $1,000 a month to this person, $3,000 a month to this person, all the different vendors that we were past due on. And I would stick them on the desk under the keyboard. So when my staff walked in, they don't see it.
Wow.
And,
do you remember your monthly revenue at the time about?
Yeah, at the time we were at a run rate probably of like 2 million. So it wasn't a big company, but, yeah, we were probably doing we were like a $2 million run rate. That's where we were at.
A month?
No, annual.
Oh, annual.
Yeah,
All right, so
annual,
about 160 grand a month. And then what was your payroll?
Our payroll was, man, we're going back like a decade.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot.
Probably, not including radiologists, we were probably at 60 to 70,000 a month in payroll.
So it was a profitable company if it was being run the right way.
Yeah. Granted, we had the radiologist. Radiologist is another 20, 25,000 a month. And then you've got, if you can imagine, running an MRI and CT machine, electricity utilities are ridiculously expensive. And then we've got rent that was $14,000 a month, and CAM and all that kind of stuff. So there's more overhead, but it was a profitable company for sure.
And your old man just was like, peace out. But was he still taking a salary himself, or at least distributions? What was he doing?
Yeah, every Monday he would ask me for a check, every single Monday, and so it got to the point where I started denying him checks, and it became a little bit of an issue. But
what was your authority to do that though? Because did he gift you a percentage of the company?
No. So at the time I was just a signer on the account, and I was just running the company.
Yeah.
And I ended up the company. I was able to pay down, let's fast forward like a year and a half. I was able to pay down about half of the debt over that year and a half, 2-year period. And my dad needed money. So we put it on the market, couldn't sell it because we were asking for too much, because he needed the money. So the broker that we had it on the market with is like, Brent, have you thought about buying the company? And I said no, because I was like 23 years old with like really good credit and not a lot of money. And so he goes, I think you might be able to buy it. So we go to a couple different banks. I get denied by 4 or 5 banks. And he goes, I think I have the right bank that would approve you. And it's a bank called Stearns Bank. They're up in North Florida. And by the grace of God, they somehow, some way, I was able to leverage the company and buy the company from my father.
Who owned Stearns Bank? Like, who was on
a genius, an absolute genius.
Absolutely, this guy was a visionary. He saw the vision.
Yeah. I made good on that loan. So
I absolutely, I know that. But that's did you had to have moments of self-doubt, like, what am I doing? I should walk away from this thing. Screw, like I'll just tell my dad, like, no, this is your problem. Like, did you go through moments where you were never?
No, because at the time my mom wasn't remarried. So he had obligations with her. Our whole family's health insurance was being paid through that. My livelihood was that. His livelihood was that. Yeah. So I don't know. I had to make it work just so that we could all, keep going. Yeah. And so that was an interesting moment.
It's a lot of responsibility for a 23-year-old.
But so the day I bought the company, I was able to cash him out, and pay down the rest of the debt that day. And I owned the company free and clear with a loan, and the company was debt free. And I ended up growing the company about 30% year over year, for like a little over 3 years, and I ended up selling the company. And that was that day that you were talking about.
Day,
yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
That's at 23, I was, I think, just starting my law school journey. My friends, like, that's just such a young age, right? Like, I don't want to gloss over that fact to be thrown into that scenario and also kick ass through the whole thing and figure out how to come out on top.
Don't get me wrong. There were many stressful days and lost sleep and whatnot, but keep the faith, man.
Yeah, but I think that's what's so fascinating for me, just witnessing you over these years, because we'll get into some more stuff here in a second, but you seem to go through what you go through with a smile and with an attitude that is admirable, and for somehow you don't let it get you down, at least on the outside, the observation from afar.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't stress too much. The advice I got from my dad is
just play golf.
No, that's good advice, but no. If you have financial stress, you could only deal with it Monday through Friday between 9 and 5. If it's 5:01 p.m. through 8:59 a.m., there's nothing that you could possibly do to fix the situation. So you could think about it, but don't stress it. And then when 9 o'clock hits, stress it and figure it out. And you could leave it at the door at 5 p.m. and figure it out tomorrow. So,
well, being able to compartmentalize like that's uncommon, at least in my experience. So, all right. So then you built it up 3 years, sold it, and since then it's not like you've done nothing, right? You had to get back in the game, and let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So during the period of lawyering, which took an unreasonable amount of time, I started up a digital marketing agency, and ended up I started that in 2018. I ended up closing in 2019 on the medical company. So yeah, in 2018 I started that, and ended up building that, and I sold that in 2022 January. And then during that period of time, in 21, I started up a manufacturing and distribution company, and that company grew pretty large pretty quickly. We officially started doing business in September of 21, and we did like just under 600,000 in revenue in that little period of time when we started. The following year, we did about 2 million in revenue, and then in 24, which we'll talk about the ending of that company, we were on pace to do about 5 million in revenue. So we were growing like 230% year over year in that company. We were growing really fast.
Do we want to talk about what you were manufacturing and distributing, or do we want to leave that?
Miscellaneous rubber and plastic products.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, how does a company growing that fast end up, not to give it away, but you guys doing 5 million revenue and now it doesn't exist. So
yeah. So that was the unfortunate luck of the draw. I had a business partner that was not honorable.
Unscrupulous, right?
Unscrupulous.
So that's the word of the day.
Yeah. And he ended up falling off the face of the earth, going somewhere else. I lost millions of dollars in inventory that he sent to Canada, apparently, or I don't know. That's the story I got. And I had close to $1 million of my own money in the company. And yeah, that was all gone because the guy fell off the face of the planet, and I don't know where he's at in the world, but it's only money, and had to figure it out, and figured it out, and now I've got the consulting company and a few other companies, and they're doing absolutely incredible. And if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't have been able to get there because she was super supportive through that whole period of time. But
let's go back though, because I think for me this is the part that I like to hear about. It's like not only because you learn from it, right? And we tend to learn from other people's experiences if we're paying attention or if they're sharing, but what again, your business partner ran off with some things, but like what, just get a little bit more into the as much as you're willing to share, but like what could you have done differently? What happened? What did you learn? Because a lot of people go into business and they don't know that person that well.
Yeah. So I learned a lot through that whole experience, but you could do a lot of due diligence on who you're going into business with. But at the end of the day, once that operating agreement is signed, you guys are married. And you know this better than anyone. You've litigated a million of these different cases, but doing your homework, I could have done much better homework, I'm sure, and somehow, some way gotten in contact with people he's done business with in the past and learned a little bit about his past, because evidently this wasn't something that was novel to my situation. This is something that he's done in the past and continued doing after me. So I'm sure I could have figured that out, but furthering from that, really, I think during the period of being in business with him, there were a lot of signs, and because I was so head down and I had so much capital invested, I sort of blinded myself to those signs. And my wife would bring it up all the time. She would be like, "Oh, I think there's something wrong here. Or this doesn't feel right, or
That's
whatever."
incredible,
And I would,
right? That's that wife's intuition for
all,
sure.
all of us go through that. Yeah,
women are special when it comes to
we got to learn to listen to those.
Oh
things.
my goodness! Oh, I don't argue with it anymore. That was my lesson. But just it's okay to lose, and I had never lost up until that point. And it's okay to lose, and I probably should have cut my losses earlier rather than waiting until it turned into a multi-million-dollar loss. But honestly, I that experience, the experience of he was holding product ransom, and then it got really bad, and then he emptied bank accounts and then shipped product to Canada, so I couldn't get it here in the US and all that kind of stuff. And when that happened, it was all the cards fell, right? That house of cards was done. And for whatever reason, I felt really calm in the moment, like when that happened, because I knew that I was going to figure it out somehow, some way. And I think my first call was you. I think you were my first call when that happened. And you guided me through the legal process there. And I am forever appreciative of that. But when you're talking to a potential partner, you'll never know until you get into business, and money changes people, and
It's just like marriage.
It's just like marriage.
Yeah. Well, I often refer to like partnership disputes and breakups as a business divorce, right?
Yeah.
You sign that operating agreement, like you said, you're married
Yeah.
in business to that person. I tell people all the time, reference checking is one of the most underutilized and underrated parts about, it's not just for hiring, but humans, I believe, this is sort of like my opinion I formed, we are hardwired. Like, it's hard for us to say nice things about somebody we don't like. And that's why checking references is so important. Because how many times, if anyone out there has this experience, if you check references, you get a reference and it should be like, well, give me 3 references, right? So these should be like slam dunk home run. Yeah. These 3 people are going to say really nice things about you. And then you sense that hesitation when you're asking the person, like, and you're like, what do you mean? Well, tell me a little bit more, please. And it's hard for you. Like, if you don't like someone, someone is a piece of crap. Humans aren't going to get on the phone with a stranger and say really nice things about somebody who they truly feel like you can feel and see through those conversations. And,
sure.
And not that it would have changed your mind. A lot of people are tunnel vision. I'm moving forward, and we all have faith in ourselves to overcome these things.
It could have, depending on the conversation I had, but no, I didn't do it, and that's probably that could have saved me, or it could not have, and I could have ended up in the same situation with him. But like I said, everything happens for a reason. God has a plan. That was in the cards for me, and it was an amazing experience, because it was my first time understanding what it was like to not just have a super success for everything that I touch. Yeah. And also during that period of time when we were in business, I learned so much in that business about a totally different line of business that I've never been in the manufacturing distribution space. I learned a ton about it, grew a really great company. It was super profitable. We were doing really well. So it was lots of really good lessons learned, and I wouldn't trade it.
Was it most of your money on the line? Because you mentioned, you infused capital in the business. Was he also putting in money, or was he the brains?
It was primarily my money. Yeah, this whole thing was his idea, and he spent a lot of time in China at the manufacturers and stuff. I refused to go there, so he was very hands-on, boots on the ground, in order to make the company get to where it got. ultimately, and negotiating our contracts with vendors and manufacturers, and getting, you know, our cost of goods down, and handling all the import stuff. And once the product got here, it was my job to make sure it sold. So,
and do you think he planned this from day one, or did the business just go south, or went really well? He saw the money and he ran.
I don't know. Probably. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Questions that you probably had after that you wish you had answers to, but you can never get them because he was gone.
Honestly, I once it was over, I didn't think much about it. It's in my past. I can't do anything about it. So what's the point of dwelling on it? Just figure out what to do next. Like, what am I going to do next? Yeah. People
throw the word failure around a lot, and what's the quote? It's like success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. Right? Meaning, when you fail, very few people raise their hand and be like, I gave you advice, or I gave you some help and you failed. I'm sorry, I was part of that. Nobody comes, to the door and says, I'm so sorry. People, your good friends are going to, feel bad for you and that kind of thing. But when you're successful, I helped them, I did this little thing, everybody wants to take a part of the success. A failure, though, is a word that, it's going to sound like a soundbite, but there's so many micro failures that it's not really a failure. Other people, want to see you to fail because they want to feel better about themselves. But unless you quit, it's not a failure.
So I've talked to you about one of my father's best friends, Julius. He had a, he was talking to my dad one day, and
it's a big day for the Sixers, by the way. We just happen to be
is it
filming. You don't know. This guy's not even a sports guy.
Yeah. But
just today, LeBron announced he's going to go play for the Sixers.
Is he? Yes. Oh, that's cool. But I'm a fight fan. If you want to talk about UFC, I could talk about
all
that
day
all
long.
Day. But, so they were talking, and he said something really cool. He said there is no such thing as failure. There's success and unsuccess, and the things that you're unsuccessful in, you were still successful in learning something. And I think that's an incredible way to approach life, because you could learn something from every situation, no matter how bad it was. There's always a lesson to be learned, and that's what I've gotten out of it.
It's not always easy to be an entrepreneur, right? We got a lot of long days, hard nights, but to be able to bounce back is why you are an entrepreneur. And I think we all know a lot of people, if they lost almost, I don't know exactly everything, and they had a chunk of money and they were successful, they could be very hard on themselves, and they could be very embarrassed about it. They cannot be open about it, not reach out for help. And again, you seem to have this like, hey, I learned and I moved on. And just from me to you, extremely admirable. And now look at you. Let's talk about Rev Your Business.
Yeah. So obviously, I've built various companies, and I've sold and exited various companies, and so I had a unique moment after I got out of the manufacturing company, and I spent like 5 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, because I don't think I'll ever have that opportunity again in my life to just sit there and not have anything to do and just think about what I'm going to do next. And I wanted to make sure I enjoyed it.
Unless you sell a business, right? Because that's the other opportunity.
Yeah, but when I was every company I sold, I had started something else because I didn't want to be in that limbo.
Yeah.
So that's always something I thought about. I never wanted to just like have nothing to do.
Sure.
But this one was unplanned, so I had nothing to do. And so I just sat there and I said, what do I want to do now? And it's got to be something that I enjoy doing every single day. And I thought for 5 months about that. And obviously I love building and selling companies. Thanks
to your dad, you have now, you've been through it. So a lot of consultants haven't done the thing that they consult on, right?
Yeah.
But thanks to the MRI business,
you
know what it's like to focus on your numbers and grow a business.
That one and the marketing company, I did the same thing. And the plan was to do it with the manufacturing company. That didn't happen, but focus on numbers, grow, build teams, and be profitable.
Yeah.
And so I figured why not build a business around helping other people do exactly what I love, which is growing a profitable, efficient, scalable company that you could ultimately sell. And so that's how Rev Your Business was born.
I love that. And you brought me a gift today, which I asked for because on all your videos I see you wearing the hat, and I think it's good branding.
Yeah.
It's not I mean, it's not something that you've trademarked because you can't, but it's a widely known thing, but man, I see you wearing these hats.
You've got to put it on though.
And
there you go.
There you go.
There it
see
is.
That?
Does it fit?
Do I look like BBD? Can't tell I'm bald now. That's good. No, but I see you wearing this hat and I'm like, that it's good branding. It doesn't say Rev Your Business, which is your business, but it's because this is your message for business owners and who you work with. We're going to come back to Rev Your Business a little bit. Thank you for this gift. I'm keeping it. And,
for the next hour or two.
I'll be wearing it. So, cool. All right, Phil, let's get back to you. Have some reverse mortgage questions. I do want to share. I mean, it's insignificant compared to what you went through, but in 2004, 2005, there was a group of alumni in my fraternity that had an investment group together, right? To use the word twice. And my brother and I joined in for a share. There was 11 or 12 equal shares in this company, and doing exactly what you were talking about, acquiring property, because it was so easy at the time. So I was only 23, and we're talking small numbers, but I'm 23 and I had to share this business where we'd buy a house like in a mountain town, and it was really fun. It's a fun way to do it. Still works today if people are interested, but we would do like a fantasy draft for weeks. So there was 12 of us, and we would each get 12 weeks out of the year where we got to go stay at this beautiful house, right? So I'm 23, taking all my friends into a house that I owned, and I felt like a badass, right? I'm young, I'm like treating people, and it was a really cool way to pool money and invest and get some use out of the property. And if anyone like wants to get a home in the Keys, for example, and you want a vacation house, but you're like, man, super expensive now, not my, I can't afford it. Put a group together, and it is possible, and it's a lot of fun. But we acquired some storage facilities, multi-unit apartments in the college town where we went, and thought we knew everything. And then it got real quiet around 2008, and all of a sudden we get an email like, everybody owes money. We have to liquidate everything, and lost a good chunk of property that was income producing. The same thing, right? But instead of bearing it all myself, I was 1/12 of sort of that loss. I mean, the story definitely not unique, right, to you or I. Whole country went through it, but definitely affected everybody a little bit differently. It's been so long, I kind of forget that I had that experience, but I do think it's a fun way to invest. So moving forward now, let's talk about reverse mortgages. I asked you about it. I know it's not your main thing anymore, but has a bad connotation. The way you explain it, though, it makes it much more clear. So, like, reverse mortgages 101. Who's eligible? Who is it good for? And how does it work?
All right. So, like I said earlier, the reverse mortgage is the most misunderstood mortgage that exists. And even to this day, the same misconceptions persist from when I started doing it almost 20 years ago. And basically all you're doing is, if you're older, 62 and over, typically, now there are products that are 55 and older, but what you're doing is, it's a mortgage like any other. It's a loan from a lender. It's got an interest rate to it. You're borrowing money, but instead of a mortgage like most of us take, where you get your statement in the mail every month with a coupon to make the payment, your statement's going to come in the mail and it's going to say you owe $100,000. Your interest this month is $500. So now you owe $100,500. And then the next month, $101,000. By the end of the year, I'm using 6%. You owe $106. In 2 years, you owe $112. So instead of taking the money out of your pocket like we do with a regular mortgage and sending it into the lender to make that payment, you don't have to make the payment. It's optional. You can, but you don't have to. The point is, you're in retirement. You're strapped for cash. Should be. I have some clients that they do it on Hibiscus Island or in the Grove, and they pull out millions and they invest in their business without having to make that monthly payment. That's the key. So you're not
something they're allowed to do.
Oh yeah, you could do whatever you want with it. You could go on vacation with it. You can do whatever you want. The majority, it's because they're tight on money and they want to do something to fix their situation. A lot of times, like my grandfather would say, I want to leave the house to you guys. And we're like, forget about us. You need to live the lifestyle you were living. He was an optometrist, so he had good money. And he actually had good retirement. For 2008, he was making $5,000 a month, his passive income. But by eliminating the mortgage payment and having a line of credit to pay the taxes and insurance, now his $5,000 a month was to live. Car was paid off, all of that. So the first thing he did was had 3 kids. You know, my mom had passed away, but a bunch of grandkids, and he took us all out to dinner. You know, that's probably like $1,000 dinner at a Cuban restaurant, which he liked to do. But that's what he loved doing. That was his way of wanting to be with the family and give to the family. And he couldn't do that for a couple years, and then he was able to. So it's about trying to go back to the lifestyle you were living before retirement is the main focus of the reverse mortgage.
Right. Go ahead.
That feels like there's obviously, you know, good use case for something like that, but that also feels like something that is sort of predatory from a lending perspective. Like
it could be if you don't explain it right, which is why in 2000 I like what FHA came out with, which is a counseling. So when I sit with clients, I explain everything A to Z because I know everything A to Z. I could quote parts of the mortgage document. If they go sit in front of most mortgage people, they have no idea what they're talking about. So they created this counseling where a third party is going to explain everything to them as well. Make sure it's not predatory or they're not explained the wrong way.
But if you're this is the first I understand a reverse mortgage because I've never asked about one. But if the premise is you take out this loan against the property that you have, right? So it's against the equity in the property. Is that how that works? Okay. And you just accrue interest and you don't have to pay. I guess it's a balloon payment at some point whenever that matures.
When you pass away, when the due and payable, which is when you sell, if you go in a nursing home or you're out of your home for more than 12 consecutive months due to mental or physical illness, then it's due and payable. You have up to a year to pay it off, selling, refinancing, things like that.
If you don't pass away for 40 years.
I always joke with my clients, I say, they're going to kick you out. And they go, and they start thinking, when you turn 150. So yeah, the date on the mortgage documents, their 150th birthday, which means it's for life. So they could live there the rest of their lives. The way it's structured now, before the crash, the way it was structured, you get 50 to 70% of your value. So when the market crashed, a lot of people were upside down. FHA's mortgage insurance covers that loss. So the lenders are protected, the borrowers and their heirs are protected. It's a non-recourse loan. The only recourse is the property. So yes, back then, it would eat the equity. Now, you look at the amortization table. First of all, as rates go up, the percentage they give you goes down. So they're balancing it out where you should never go upside down again.
So if a client comes to you and they ask you about a reverse mortgage, what's the avatar of a client that you would say that's not a good idea versus an avatar that you would say, yeah, that's a good idea. You should
Brent wants a reverse mortgage. Basically.
No, I don't. I just want to understand.
I want a reverse mortgage.
So, because obviously you want to make money. You get paid when you loan money, but not everybody's a good candidate, right? So what's a bad candidate?
Many times I've told people, I'm like, what you need to do is sell. You can't keep living in this property. You can't afford it even with the reverse mortgage. And they're like, oh, but I don't want the emotional side. Or when you're in your 70s to have to move. Moving for all of us is a pain in the ass. Yeah. It's taxing. When you're that age, it's even more taxing, especially if you've been there for 20 years and all that stuff. So yeah, there are times where I tell people this isn't for you. You need to sell. You need to downsize. And then maybe do a reverse mortgage on what you downsize. So now you have more cash flow. So yeah, there are times where it's not for them.
So you don't need to own your home outright. You can still have a mortgage on it. Let me ask you some numbers. Let's say you have a property that is valued at $500,000 and you owe $250,000.
You probably won't qualify because they don't give you 50%. Unless you're 90 something, then they'll get closer to that 50% number. And usually when someone comes to me in their 90s, it's usually their kids coming to me because their parents need in-home care.
Right.
That's
where I was going to say, that's what seemed like. So when I started understanding reverse mortgages, like instead of moving out, I can take money out on the equity of my home and continue to live and not have to go into a nursing home, and I can get in-home health care. Yeah. So, but why not? The difference with the reverse mortgage is instead of just going and saying, well, I have this property, it's $500,000, I don't own anything, I'm just going to get a mortgage because you have to make payments on that mortgage. But the reverse mortgage, you don't. You just let it ride.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And what about, so you could also go out and get a home equity line of credit.
Correct. And I was just about to say that.
Okay. Yeah. Talk to me about that.
So I've had cases, people come to me at the end of their 10-year draw period on their home equity line of credit, where they could probably afford that $700 interest only. But now at the end of your 10-year draw period, where you can take out and put in your interest only, but at the end now you're on a 20-year, 15-year amortized loan. Amortized meaning principal and interest. So now your payment goes from that $700 to $1,500. And this person's on a fixed income. They can't afford it. And now they can't qualify for a new mortgage. So if they don't qualify for the reverse mortgage, then now they're stuck. Now they have to sell. So there's pitfalls to those mortgages where you get it when you're working, but what happens when you're not working? So there's actually a lot of studies that have been done by prominent financial advisors on the education side, research side at Texas Tech and different places like that, where a lot of these guys actually are part of the CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation classes, where they teach about the reverse mortgage. And they've done studies. They have what's called Monte Carlo scenarios. So they look at your finances. They say, all right, you have 80% chance of having money through retirement with what you have now. Let's say they have $1 million cash or in their investments, and they have a paid off $1 million house. If they just write out that million, they have an 80% chance of having money. If they add the reverse mortgage line of credit, where you take as you need it, or in a down market where that $1 million is going down, that investment's going down, instead of drawing from their investments, they draw from their property. Now they have 100% chance of having money through retirement. These are actual studies. Monte Carlo scenarios are thousands of computerized scenarios. And so there's a lot of evidence-based facts behind it, where middle class should be good with retirement. My grandparents, for example, don't need it because you're not desperate, but it's no longer a loan for the desperate. So it's a good planning tool if done right.
This is why there's third-party counseling. It gets a little bit confusing. I'll throw out a scenario for you. Just take my father, right? He's 73.
I love that guy, by the way.
Thank you, man. He's at the gym almost every morning. He's doing great, but he's 73. Let's say in a few years, hopefully, 10, starts slowing down a little bit. He's got Social Security and he's got his retirement from being a teacher. If that's not enough for, let's say, in-home healthcare needs, whatever, I've heard him make comments over the years about wanting to leave something for me and my brother. But, like you said earlier, forget me and my brother. Like, it's actually better for us if you aren't a financial burden. And burden's a tough word when talking about a parent, but let's be honest, right? Parents, get in financial troubles. It falls on the kids a lot of time. So if he takes out a reverse mortgage because he just moved to Palm Beach, he owns free and clear, he could stay the rest of his life as long as he can, survive with in-home health care because of that reverse mortgage. He's not going to have to get out of there. Like, that seems like a scenario to me where it makes a lot of sense to get a reverse mortgage.
Yeah, and there's a way to structure it with a case like that, where there's 3 ways you could draw money on a reverse mortgage: lump sum, monthly payments, line of credit. The least used is the monthly payment. I had one client who's like, I don't trust myself with that money. I need to know I have money every month for the rest of my life. And he got like $1,200 a month guaranteed for the rest of his life. He'd call me every year. Hey, can I get more? Hey, can I get more? And the thing is, he did it at a time where you'd get a higher percentage. They dropped the percentages, so he hasn't ever been able to do it again. But to me, that was a good discipline that he had, where now he knows on top of his Social Security, he's got this extra money and it's good. Of course, what a lot of people don't factor in, when we have disability or Social Security or retirement, it's going up at 2 and 3%. What happened over the last 5 years with inflation? We had 9% inflation at the peak. So the value of your income is depreciating to the markets. So from your 60s to your 80s, your lifestyle is getting worse. So adding something like this can improve your lifestyle. And yeah, you're leaving less to your kids, but that's your money.
It's your money.
That's
Absolutely.
your property that you invested in. So why not use it to live a better life?
Is the interest rate out most times? Is it outpacing the appreciation of the property, or is it sort of level with the appreciation of the property?
No, because remember, if your interest rate is 6% and let's say your value is appreciating at 5%, the 6% is on your loan, which is smaller than the 5% appreciation of the property. So when you look at the amortization tables, a lot of times on the chart, because we have those charts, we show them, look, your money's growing this much, the amount you owe is growing this much. If you're and I use 4% on my calculations, which we've had way more than 4% the last 5 years, including now. We're in single digits in South Florida appreciation. Don't listen to the media. They're full of it. They always are. They always sensationalize.
Never heard that.
Yeah. So, it should always, the way it's structured now, always outpace. The equity should always continue to be there, even if it does go down and there's less equity to leave to the kids or the heirs. But it's about you living your retirement.
So if you're 80, you take a lump sum of $250 on a $500,000 house. So that's too much.
If we talk realistically on a 500 now, maybe 200.
All right, so you take your 200. You're not financially responsible. You blow it. You're still not getting kicked out of your house.
As long as you pay your property taxes and homeowners insurance.
Right, but you're like,
so
you don't own your house anymore, so the mortgage company's going to get it when you move
still
out
own it. It's still yours. If you pass away, you leave it to your heirs, like my grandparents. We sold it. The profits were ours. We split it. So you're not giving it away to the bank or to the lender. They're still on title.
Okay.
Julian's in the crowd here. When I first met with Julian, him and his partner at the time, their view of reverse mortgages was negative. Why? Because as on the probate side of things,
bring him up here. He's got some explaining to do.
On the probate side of things, but he sat with me. That's no. On the probate, this is a long time. It was probably 15 years ago now, or close to it. On the probate side of things, they see like it's so hard to get it paid in that year because you're going through probate. So their question to me was, can you do a life estate deed or a ladybird deed? I said, absolutely. That's what we encourage. Most clients I talk to, I'm like, have this structured where once you pass away, it immediately, the same day, transfers to your heirs. And I know it's not that simple, but that's my simple explanation. I always say, go talk to an attorney. Now it's theirs. Now you can immediately sell the property, refinance it, as opposed to waiting 6 months to a year for probate to go through. Even if you have a will, you can end up in probate. So
it just gets even more complicated.
Yeah. Which is why even this week, another mortgage professional I know who's very knowledgeable sent me a reverse mortgage.
Okay.
And he's like, we can't give kickbacks, but he's like, I don't want anything. I want you to take care of them,
right.
And
so you are one of the few that's still doing reverse mortgages in South Florida?
There are people that do reverse mortgages. A financial advisor just sent me, someone reached out to him, and I could look up everybody's business. This guy actually does a good amount of reverse mortgages. But what I told him jokingly, I said, hey, tell him you only work with certified reverse mortgage professionals. So there's only 200 of us in the country that have a certification from the National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association, where we've gone through testing and continuing education and all this stuff. And
you don't need the certification?
No. That's just an added bonus to show your knowledge and expertise. And I've had that since 2013, I think it was, and I renew it every year.
So how many are you still doing every year? How many reverse mortgages?
It's probably 15% of my business.
Wow.
So it's a good
high or
number.
low? You said wow.
That's way higher than I thought it would
really
be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point it was
100%.
Yeah,
it was 100, and I was doing 15 to 20 a month in 2015, 2016.
He was in Forbes. I don't know if you heard that.
I heard that.
Okay,
I heard that.
Just checking.
It only cost $5,000.
100%. Wow, that's insane. And so I had the same wow, but I thought it was gonna be higher than 15%.
Because I don't market for it anymore. So it's all referral based.
Okay.
Past clients, all that. I did marketing for it last year and I kind of broke even. And it was tons of work. Like it's a hard sell.
You said you broke even?
Yeah, on the investment in the marketing. The commissions I made off the ones I actually closed, it was basically a break, which means I worked a ton for free. And so they're hard. Sometimes they're real. Sometimes I get them from other companies that have messed it up for months. And even then, for me, it takes months. So actually, Kevin is in the crowd. Kevin saw one, a Coral Gables house, this monster house. I'm working with them for months because it was a guardianship and trust and a lot of complexities to it. And we got the green light. All right, we're ready to go. Let's go get insurance now. And I always joke with Kevin. He's always messing up my deals because then he comes, he's like, Phil, have you seen this house? It's falling apart. And it's like, and I call the guardian, and the guardian's like, yeah, that's why we're doing it. I'm like, but you never told me. We were only focused on these other obstacles. So it was like a 9-month process on that one.
Yeah.
So that it takes, and for those, yeah, I get rewarded. I get a good commission, but in the end, it's rewarding when you could help someone's situation in a way that others can't. And that's the part I like about it.
Honor above profit, apparently, because that's a totally unprofitable 15% of your business. So, yeah.
No, only because he did the marketing campaign. It's still profitable.
No, that is 50. Yeah. And some of them,
Not last year.
You make higher commissions on those than you do on regular mortgages. At one point, they wanted to cap us and all this stuff, which is stupid because you don't close as many. So you actually need that to function as a business to have it done. So, yeah.
By the way, that's Kerwin Inspections. What a wild development if we had somebody randomly watching a clip or sees a podcast and they need an inspection done in South Florida. So shout out Kerwin.
Especially if you're buying a house, because he'll find all the discount opportunities there. But
Absolutely. So then what does a mortgage industry look like right now? I saw a clip the other day that Florida hit some level and now, rents coming down, we've overbuilt again and economy's crashing and all that. Like, tell us
the sky is always falling.
Right. But you're on the front line. You see how many people are getting mortgages. Is it steady? Is it going up? What's the deal?
Yeah. Demand for what's going on. Mortgage rates hit the average rate, hit 5.9 and change, in February. So what happened at that weekend, the end of February, beginning of March? Start dropping bombs in Iran. So that's it. Now we're average 6.7, 6.8 because as the cost of things go up.
That's what it is. Like, why does that happen? What is the reaction there from the interest rate?
Inflation is the arch enemy of bonds, mortgage bonds. So and mortgage bonds drive the interest rates behind mortgages. So if the cost of oil is going up, which means the cost of everything is going up because everything that's transported takes oil to transport it, then the value of that money in the future is going to be less. So the investors, the bond market in mortgages they're going to be fearful of the future value of what they're investing. Therefore, the mortgage rates start going up, which mortgage bonds go down, 10-year treasury goes up, and mortgage rates are going up.
I'm a client of Phil's, by the way. Just help me close on a mortgage for a new property. Guy gets deals done, and I've always appreciated that about Phil. It's not always easy, right? Like you're asking someone else for money, you got to qualify. So a lot of opportunities to fail in that process.
And to talk about our subject of the ups and downs, huge ups with the reverse mortgage, then downs as I transitioned, then perfectly positioned for COVID, where we hit the lowest rates that we've had in history, and absolute boom. Of course, overhead was high to support that kind of business. And I thought going into that I'd be the type of business owner to easily cut employees, cut all that. But then I think of them and their families and their this. So I hold on too long. Our business is going down, not cutting employees enough. So 2022 overhead stayed high while income was going down. And then I finally cut. 2023 was my worst year. I made enough to pay the bills and pay my employees, but not pay Phil. And then 24 was slight rebound, 25 slight rebound, 26 is doing better. So it's been a rough few years for most people in the mortgage business. Then
got a question for you.
Sure.
I love this topic. All of the mortgage brokers that work for you, they're all 1099, right? They eat what they kill. They don't make money unless they
commission based.
Okay. So overhead is what? What is
employees?
Your overhead?
I have 3 employees now. I had 8 coming in beginning of 2022, cut down to 3 by the end of 2022, and kept my best 3. So the most expensive 3 also. And what most expensive 2, because one of those came from Get Staffed Up.
And what are they doing for you? You mentioned the other employees, not your commission based.
So it's an assembly line, as you see. I have Iris, who's my staffer in El Salvador, and she's like my assistant. So she helps. I do the phone call, bring in the client. She manages the documents. Alfredo sets it up, gets it ready for pre-approval. Marilyn does my pre-approval. She's the processor that deals with underwriters and all that. So I'm able to do this, meet with clients, do the damage control when we're in the middle of the process, and do all that because I have that support staff behind me. If the business isn't supporting the support staff, I still stuck with it. And even if I had to dip into savings, keep them, because I know at some point, I had hoped it was a couple of years ago, it's really going to take off. And then I'm going to need those people that know me.
So I guess I'm gonna play questioning as a consultant. When you had all this super high overhead and you weren't making money and Phil couldn't get paid, were you like monitoring finances? Did you see? Were you looking at your P&L every month, and were you tracking KPIs and understanding like where the money's going and why you're not profitable? Were you tracking all this stuff? Why wouldn't you make the decision to?
The emotional side of those people. I thought I could be that business owner that could cut without emotion, just because it's about me surviving. But the anxiety of those meetings, which when I finally had them were difficult, I avoided that. And I thought, this is temporary. And it is temporary, but temporary has been years, not months.
I can relate to that. I've cried firing people that I liked. I've literally cried in front of staff. Like
they've cried in front of me, and I'm holding back tears.
That's a lot of my most memorable conversations are those conversations. We have to let somebody go. That's another family who was relying on you as the owner of the business, the job provider, for their livelihood, and that's not easy. Most businesses, there's a time when you're growing and you staff up and you're making sure you're not depriving your business of oxygen, right? And then when things sort of taper off, it's not that easy to be like, well, I am looking at my numbers, but I can't figure this out, so I'm just going to cut a bunch of people. That's not a normal. I mean, some people can be, that formulaic, but it's just not easy because like, I'll figure my way through this. I'll do some more marketing. I'll do some more networking. I'll pick it up. Maybe mortgages will, 2 months or next quarter, they'll be higher, right? All these things are running through your mind where, because again, I've been through that. I've gone through rollbacks in the past few years in both businesses, because sometimes like you look at your expenses and you let them balloon because you went through 2 years of money rolling in and you signed up for more things, more marketing, more software, and it's just not easy. And people see a business owner and they want sponsorships. They want money. They think we have all the answers and all the money, and it's not always that simple.
Yep.
Unless your name is Brett, then you have all the answers.
All the answers.
There were even, I remember cutting even down to like the shredder box. Like why am I paying $90 a month? Called around and I got a $40 every 2 months. Like I went through every expense. I know how to read a P&L. I had a business coach who was in GJ, Doug Barra, back in 2013, 2014. And I remember the biggest lesson I walked out of with my year and a half of working with him was just that. If you don't know your finances, you don't have a business. If you can't read your P&L, then you don't have a business. You have to understand all those ebbs and flows and what happens. I know right now what my overhead is. I know when I close out a month, if I'm under 40,000, I just lost money. If I make 40,000, I still lost money because now my personal expenses are going elsewhere. I made 100, great. Now I can cover X number of months for myself. Like I understand the ebbs and flows of it. It's just, when will the turn come? Because when the turn comes for mortgages, it's like that. September 24, September 25, when the Fed came out and said, we're cutting rates, we boomed, for a few months. If I didn't have my setup, I couldn't handle that business. So
that's incredible how
fickle that business can be, that industry.
It's
Yeah.
just,
So
good on you for figuring that business out.
And I've always had, Lacey and I talk about this, my wife, that what's the side business? What's the out? What's the other thing to, because these ebbs and flows drive me crazy, which I've also learned part of it is my fault. I started doing mortgage coaching, specific mortgage, in October. And the first thing they did was, how often do you call your past clients? I don't. My past clients call me. No. They're like, you have hundreds of clients to call. You should be calling every week, every day. Just, what's up? How are you? What are your plans? When I started doing that, I can't tell you how many people I called and say, oh man, I bought a new house last year and then I refinanced it with someone else. That's 2 mortgages I lost. So part of it was my fault.
Yeah.
Not doing that piece of it that I always felt I didn't have to.
You know what I started doing? So I started reaching out to all of the different referral partners that we have, in your case, clients, right? And during conversation, I would learn like what their hobbies are, what their interests are, what their favorite thing is. And in our CRM, I have like a line item for interests. And so it could be golf, it could be boating, it could be travel, whatever. And every week we'll go through, like my assistant and I will go through a letter of the alphabet. And whatever that letter is, we'll send those people like a card that's themed with that topic or that interest, or like a little, like a box of golf balls or whatever to those referral partners, with a little note, like a handwritten note that says, "Hey, saw this, thinking about you, hope all is well." And it's a good way to stay top of mind.
I think so. Following up with past clients is not a novel idea, right? That we just came up with. And what I see a lot, because I've been through this, is when you're trying to build a business, then you're on it. You're reaching out to people. You're letting them know you're asking for business or checking in. And then when things are going well, it's not that you take your clients for granted. It's like the unintentional take for granted, right? Because money's rolling in. I'm so busy creating my assembly line. The market's reacting. I'm not creating the time to reach out, because it's not like I don't need that business to have a house to sleep in that night. And that's when it's easy, when things are going well, to not look at your finances enough. Hey, we got enough money, no problem. Not follow up with clients. That discipline is rare to do that, even in the good times. I've been through that myself. Absolutely.
Yep. And then when we had our Gentleman's Journal retreat, Enrique and Dukes were talking about AI agents. And I was like, every time I hear about AI, like the chats and stuff never caught my attention, doing the videos and doing this and that. But when I would hear about the agents that are coming, I was like, that sounds interesting. So Enrique and Duke started talking about that. And then that week, serendipitously, another guy in the mortgage business says in a mortgage chat, I started a group of mortgage broker owners where we all kind of network and help each other out in Florida, in South Florida. And he was like, "Hey, I paid for this event. It's an all-day Saturday event on how to build your AI agent. I can't make it and they won't refund me. Who wants to go?" I was like, "I'm there." And what that set off, I got the upsell. I went in, is now I've created AI agents for a real estate business, which now I'm finally starting to actually talk to realtors about. It's live. In real estate, they have what's called a transaction coordinator. So it's a person that gets paid $500, $700 per transaction to get the contract, read the contract, make sure everything's good, follow up on dates, make sure the loan approval date is not going to go past and all this stuff. Like we did on yours, me and the realtor were talking about it. But we got to remember, well, you could get the AI to do it. And now a contract comes in, they could email it to her. She breaks down the whole contract, sends everybody the dates, and has milestones to reach out to, and an app and all this stuff that we built out. So, and then now I had this other idea of on the mortgage side that I haven't started, but it's like, to me, AI in support of mortgages and real estate is big for me right now, that I'm digging into. Mortgage business isn't going to go to, I have my employees, and I'm actually hiring an employee for the AI stuff. So then I can go back to making those calls. So to me, I think the future is going to be amazing, because rates are going to swing down at some point here, and then the mortgage business will take off, and then the support of mortgages through AI is, I'm very excited about.
Word of caution there is AI agents are great, but they break very often. So someone needs to be, I think you said you hired someone to monitor that, but you have to stay on top of.
So the open claw breaks a lot. Hermes doesn't. That's a different, yeah. But at the same time, I'm in there every day. Now it's by hand. It's not automated because I'm in there. But yeah, I have my staffer is learning it, and so is the new person that I was already trained by the people I've been using that have been doing AI since before generative AI, when it was just computer stuff. And so they've been training people that are offshore, which I want to talk to you, Enrique, about.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Let's go back to you, Brent. And then, we're going to talk a little bit about, your current business. And, then as we come to the end of this podcast and round down, I'm going to ask you guys, like, hey, what are just some lessons if someone said, you've been through ups and downs? Like, what have you learned, or what advice would you give me? So we'll end with that. But before we do, Brent, your current business, man, I'm wearing the hat. I mentioned, that I like your branding. You're helping business owners focus on their numbers, right? You're helping them learn to manage by the numbers and then grow the business. I'm sure you're helping a lot of people get ready to sell. Why Rev Your Business, the name, and then, what kind of stuff are you helping people through?
Rev your business because I love cars. So rev up your engine just like you rev up your business.
Sneak your business didn't
No,
really
no,
go
no.
together, right?
Sneakerhead
As
your
you can tell,
business. Sneakers are not a thing anymore. But
there you
go. What was the second part of the question?
Yeah. So who are you working with now? You're taking these lessons you learned, been through the hard knocks, still super young. I mean, some people don't even start business until their 40s, and you're 34. So, what are you seeing out there, and who you working with?
Yeah, I've got clients all over the country, from California, Michigan, Tennessee, Florida, all over. And we work with primarily companies up to about 25 million in revenue. So our smallest client is about $1 million in revenue, and our biggest client is upwards of 20. And so we kind of hang out in that lower middle market. And most of the clients that come to me they come to the company for two different reasons. Number one, they've kind of hit a plateau, and they've gotten to this point and they're stuck there and they don't know how to get to the next level, and they're overworked. They're like, owner dependency is a big issue. They're working 14 hours a day and they can't get out of their own way. Or it's a company that is, they're sort of aging out, and they want to think about selling in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and they want to make sure they maximize the enterprise value of the company and sell for as much as they possibly can, and reduce opportunities for discounts. So those are really the two primary the primary engagements that we work with clients on. Most of the time they all have very similar challenges. The company is highly owner dependent, and they're involved in everything. And they are wildly unprofitable compared to what they should be. They don't have a handle on their numbers, as you talked about.
Real quick, are they unprofitable because their overhead's too high, or they're just not charging what they should, or both?
Yeah, I mean, there's only 3 levers you can pull for profit, right? You've got income, how much you sell for. You've got cost of goods, how much it costs to deliver the product, and then overhead. So it's usually most of the time it's either it's a race to the bottom on price, and that's the issue. And or their overhead is just out of control, and they have no idea what their finances are because their bookkeeper is their wife, or they don't have a bookkeeper at all, and they don't know what they're doing, and they're just sort of operating out of the bank account. And we have enough money in the bank account, I'm just going to make this decision, and that's not a way to operate, obviously. So yeah.
I was going to make this comment earlier. You said something nice towards me that I helped you through a situation. We've got, a few GJ members in the room, and one of our guests in the room is a law student. He's Sean Judy's kid, and he's sitting back there. So I was asking him some questions. Oh, he just went to the bathroom. Oh, he doesn't need to hear any nice things. But I told him, when you litigate, normally the only people that win are the lawyers. The parties are fighting, and I think part of the question might have been, why didn't you sue the guy? Why didn't you go after the money? You can spend another $1 million in court chasing someone, and you can be right, but it doesn't mean you're going to recoup the money, especially with an international business and vendors in China, of all places. And then, people are able to move money and hide money. And 3 years later, you're getting to where you're going to get a judgment, and they've just pissed it all away, spent it. There's no money to get. And that is a sad thing to see in business in general. One of my early cases, we won. We defended a lawsuit and won. And the young girl that we represented was like, I'm glad we won, but I'm shutting down the business because it's not worth it. It's not worth it to spend all this time and money to provide jobs, and then to have one of those people come back and sue you for absolute garbage reasons, but it cost me so much money to be right. So now you're just a checkbook. Like, do I just write a check and make this thing go away? You have decisions to make when you're faced, with what you went through.
Yes, that situation, I don't think there's any insurance that exists that you can insure against that.
Yeah, right. Shitty partner insurance.
Yeah.
There you go.
But if you are in business and you get sued, there's insurance policies that could protect you and back you in the event of something like that. Like something that I'm really big on is directors and officers insurance, because I don't want to be personally involved in a company or in a lawsuit that has to do with my company. Right. And if I get named, or you get named in a lawsuit personally, well, now you are on the hook personally, and directors and officers insurance could come in and back you, and you have $1 million, $2 million, whatever checkbook to go litigate, and okay, have at it, guys. And it's may the best man win. But, I try to protect myself as much as possible from the insurance front. I haven't been through much of any legal issues in my life, which I'm very thankful for. And God willing, it continues to be that way. But yeah, in that situation, I spent a little bit of money with your firm and just called it quits, because like, what's the point? And I realized that pretty early on. So, yeah, the lawyers always win. You guys are the smart ones, I guess.
I guess, it's one of those things. You have a job to do, but it is a terrible feeling when people are spending a lot of money, and unfortunately you can win, but principal is expensive. On a totally different note, Phil, you mentioned ups and downs, and I've owned a law firm. This is our 15th year now, so we'll be celebrating 15 years in November, and a law firm is very month to month, up and down. You have really good months, then you can have down months. And for the first probably 6-7 years owning the firm, my mood basically followed the pattern of that income. Have a good month, bills are paid, everybody's happy. Bad month, like I'm going out of business, I'm going to be homeless, and it's hard. It's hard to deal with those ebbs and flows. And we talked about this last podcast, the subscription economy. Your business now is monthly. People pay you the same amount every month. So, I'm guessing on whatever date, or maybe multiple dates per month, money hits your account, and you can month to month count it, unless you lose a client, but you're not really starting at zero every month. And then as you add people, that continues to grow. And I like what you're doing, Phil, because it sounds like, consulting, you can figure out how to add some of that recurring monthly income. And it's a game changer for a business that can figure out a way. Again, I don't not to call it out or picking anyone. You can do 10 inspections in 1 month, and then the next month it just goes dry, and you're like, holy shit, like where's my next piece of business going to come from? And that's a hard, way to do it. So anybody listening, any one of our members, if you can figure out a way to add, and again, honor above profit, the right way, something that's valuable. If you can add recurring monthly income to a business, it's a total game changer.
And piggybacking on that, oftentimes there are, if you have the bandwidth and if you have the capital to do it, obviously, and the time, there are other opportunities within your business that could feed other opportunities. And so, for instance, with the consulting, a lot of what we do is looking at the financials of a company. And oftentimes what we'll find, as I said, bookkeeping is a mess. And you can't trust any of the numbers on your P&L because you have no idea what's going on. And you've got, expenses for a subscription in like contract labor somewhere. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? Because the bookkeeper is just categorizing however they want,
totaling it, and that's it.
And they're getting paid their little $1,000 a month and whatever. So I referred out so much of that business over the past year and a half. And so I said, and it's still not being done properly. I said, well, why don't I have some control over this? And so with that, the opportunity came up, and I started another company called
Rev Bookkeeping.
No, Rev Your Bookkeeping.
There you go.
RevYourBookkeeping.com. But the point is oftentimes if you're very good at what you do, and you have clients that trust you, and you have an opportunity to expand your offerings, as long as you have the capital and the resources and time, there's other ways to add that recurring model, that subscription economy that you're talking about, that could further that comfort of knowing that there's money coming in next month. So that's something that I've been very focused on. I love service-based businesses. Inventory is a real pain to manage, and it's very expensive, especially if the company is growing fast. And so from now moving forward, everything that I do is just delivering service and finding opportunities for those recurring models. And that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Hard lesson learned. I mean, not that nobody should ever get into the inventory business, but totally different set of challenges. And it can be very tough without a lot of capital and access to capital. And
it's also not very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have fun doing it.
There you go.
I love what I'm doing now. So
yeah, an underrated part of business too. If you, I mean, people say that I love what you do and you never work a day. For me, it's not about that. It's about where your energy goes. Like if you're excited to do something, then you just do it. And oh, by the way, you're making money from it, right? And,
yeah, I'm actually gone back to Lacey sees me, working crazy hours right now because I'm doing all the AI stuff, late nights, weekends, all that stuff, watching the World Cup on the weekend on the couch with the laptop. So I hear the crescendo, something's gonna, and then I look up, but she sees it and she's like, I haven't seen that in you in a long time. So it's a drive. It's not that, oh my God, I have to do this and you're sluggishly doing it. And to something you said earlier, when things were really bad in the last couple of years, I would work and at 5 o'clock, I'd be like, I'm done. And when I leave my desk, I'm leaving all that baggage, all that stress behind. I'm going upstairs to be with my family and focus on them. And that was something I learned. You asked about lessons. Every time I had a fall and an increase in a fall, I would think, oh, I know what I can do next time. I learned my lesson. But what I've learned is every time is different. So the lesson I learned now is you don't know what the hell's coming next. And what you've got to pay attention to is you might think you could fall back on some of the old stuff, but you really have to be open to something new and a new way of approaching whatever challenge comes your way. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned, which doesn't give you a solution, but at least if you approach it not thinking I'll be good next time, but no, next time I've got to figure out the new pivot and find that way. I think that's the biggest thing I learned the last few years.
I don't know if you caught what Phil said. He goes, when I'm done, I go upstairs to be with my family. That's because he lives in the Keys in an awesome house on the water out there. So.
But before actually, it reminds me, you mentioned that you own the building where your company operates. Quick mention, when did you buy the building and how has that worked out for you financially?
So to back up a tiny bit behind that, after the bankruptcy, I told myself when I do it this time, I'm going to do it right. I bought my first single family, again, the new one in 2013, which when I sold it in 2021, it was double. And then my best quarter ever was Q2 of 2015, where we made $1 million. And we were working out of my house. My dining room table had paper applications
in one
everywhere.
quarter.
In 1 quarter, we made $1 million. And that's when I bought the building. I said, I'm immediately going to invest because I needed all these damn people out of my house, first of all. And so I was looking for rental, but I was like, I don't want to pay all this money to a landlord. And I happened to find this amazing opportunity. And I mean, that thing is double in value, pays itself, even if my mortgage company doesn't pay anything. And I occupy about a quarter of it, a little over a quarter of it. So to me, that's my retirement plan. We actually have it written where if we pass away, the kids can't sell it. The kids need to learn how to manage it and learn what residual income is. Neto and I joked, he's like, and I've said it before, a coal list and all this, sell it and buy Bitcoin. No, this one is going to be this stable investment. And
buy stablecoin, Phil. Come on, bro.
That is phenomenal financial advice. We'll see how this clip ages in like 10 years. But yeah,
he's going to be really smart or crying. Who knows?
But then in 2020, I bought the house in the Keys and a house for my mother-in-law, which talking about having to take care of your parents. That's, when we basically pay her stuff. And, and a couple other properties. Now we're down to 3 residentials and 1 commercial, but doing it right is how I see it. They got a cash flow. I'm not a fan anymore because I did a couple of vacation rentals the last few years. That's another one that you're you're subject to whatever the market is.
Right.
And the vacation rental
Talking
market's
about
tanked.
Airbnb, for example.
It's tanked in certain parts. Miami, downtown Miami area, you'll probably do well Airbnb. I had Kissimmee and New Smyrna. They tanked. The Canadians stopped coming down because they don't like Trump. The second home market in Florida is doing very poorly. So if you could rent it for a full year, pays your mortgage, that's a good investment. And so those are the things that I've learned with that. And I've also, like Lacey said the other day, we buy a property in Spain. I'm like, we'll vacation in Spain. I'm done with buying properties where we vacation. We will pay other people to. It becomes a very expensive vacation on a second home. If you could buy it cash and you could afford it, then I would say do it. So it might kill deals for me. Actually, I tell people, because then they'll say, I'm going to go somewhere else. I say, no, I'll do the mortgage for you. But I gave you my best advice.
Yeah.
You know, and so those are some lessons in real estate, the way I've changed. I didn't mention part of how I funded those properties in the 2000 decade was my mom passed away in 2006, and she had a small life insurance, 150, 75, me and my brother. And I took that 75 and I thought, I'm going to invest it. I'm going to do great with it. No, I actually threw it away, but I didn't throw it away. I call that tuition. Call everything we've spent, everything we've learned, I call tuition. So it's not wasted. It's an investment in your future. The last few years, I was investing in my employees. So when things turn around, things get better. So it's all how you frame it and how you approach it that helps you get through those hard times.
My takeaway is, for our listeners, if you had a dream of that beautiful Tuscan home, Phil says, don't do it. Kill that dream. Just pay someone for 2 weeks, go stay there, right? And
some people, it's like I said, if you could buy
if you could buy it cash,
or if you can afford for it to be not rented for an entire year, do it.
Yeah,
do it. But if you have to rely on that rental income, that 2 weeks, a month at a time, then it's probably not the right move.
Yeah.
So it's like a boat or a plane. I won't mention the other thing, but it's like a boat or a plane.
Exactly.
Just to that point, Phil. Actually, I have a friend I was talking to yesterday who's done very well buying planes. Just hit it right, but planes don't necessarily depreciate. Anyway, neither here nor there. I got excited about planes because thinking about going to flight school. So I'm gonna get way off track here, but people think that like Airbnb is the new thing a few years ago and it'll never change. But that's come, way down. And then you get people that damage your home. It's a pain in the ass. I think that's one of the lessons is things always change. Be ready. And if you can't afford a downturn, just like when you were grabbing all those properties, right? Just like when I was grabbing all those properties as part of the group, things can change and you got to be ready for it.
And the thing is, I could afford the downturn when I did it. The problem is the downturn lasted so long and then the properties are vacant for so long that it's just, you're hemorrhaging cash.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I say it that way. If you don't have the income to pay for both properties, your primary and the secondary, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. All right, Brent, in your 34 years on this earth, what wisdom can you impart upon us, your friends, the listeners, as we almost sign off here?
It's a lesson that my father gave me, and it's actually on this cigar label. And on the bottom, it says, "This too shall pass." Doesn't matter how bad it feels. It's only temporary. Good times, temporary, as we've talked about. Bad times are temporary. So, whatever it is that you're going through, just keep your head down, keep the faith, and do your very best to get yourself through whatever that moment is. And I guarantee you will get through it.
Absolutely. I like how Winston Churchill put it. If you're going through hell, keep going. Thank you guys. Phil, appreciate your time. Brent, really appreciate your guys' time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today. Speaking of having fun, thank you to our audience. I cannot forget to thank the man behind the camera, as you referenced earlier, Phil. That is Neto Almanza with VideoWorks. As I say, cinematic storytelling.
And drone washers.
And a lot of other cool things Neto's doing. He blends technology, AI, camera work. VideoWorks Miami. Check him out. Again, thank you to our host, El Vecino. Thank you guys who are here to support. Thank you to Gentleman's Journal. And until next time. Thank you, boys.